As a leader embarking on the Fresh Expressions journey in a rural setting, a few things to consider. So first of all, I would first ask, where do people gather? What do people care about? What are people doing in their free time? And so you might find that there's some places where people really connect a lot. You hear about the Friday Night Lights, the football games, or youth sports. You might hear of like a gas station or the one restaurant in town, the Dollar General, the grain elevator, all these different places where people gather, where people connect. And those can be really helpful places to begin the Fresh Expressions journey. In rural communities, we tend to know a lot more of our neighbors, and so we can kind of discover how people are gathering, and it might not be through one of those third places. I have a family in Western North Carolina. The mother came to a training, and she said her son and his friends, they get together on the weekends at his house, which has some land around it. They bring their four-wheelers, they hang out in the backyard, cook up some hamburgers, and have some good times together, and then ride their four-wheelers. And so he's kind of created community right there in his backyard. And so, maybe there's things like that are happening in your community that can be the basis of a new form of church emerging. I'd also think about, who are some people in your community that aren't connected to church, and find out why. Have those conversations. Don't assume that people all go to a church. Even the people that when you ask them, hey, do you go to a church? They might say yes, but they might not be going very often. I was talking to my hunting buddy in Lumberton, North Carolina, and he's a devoted Baptist. He's a deacon at his church. Him and his dad, they often talk to young men in their community and say, hey, do you go to church? And they'll say something like, yeah, my mom goes to so-and-so. So they say yes, but it's because that's where their mom goes. They're not going to that church. And so it's an opportunity to maybe gather a new form of church. So for my friend who's in Lumberton, there's this group of young men who are passionate about hunting. What would it look like to gather a group of men to have an outdoorsman meal where you bring some game together, you cook it, and you have someone share about their connection with God and the outdoors. There's one of those in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, the Christian Outdoorsman Fellowship. And rural communities, often we're not working with post-Christian people, we're working with people who are Christian but disconnected from church. So something like that, where even though it says Christian in the name, it's not going to scare people away because they're not afraid of Christianity. They're avoiding traditional forms of church. So something new, creative like that can really bring people together. Dinner churches, or a lake church, or a gathering that happens outdoors. All these things can be really effective in rural communities, and they don't necessarily have to look all that different than a church service, but they're different enough to pique the interest of your neighbors, to gather a group of people that have wandered off from church connection and bring people back in. So there's just a few things I would think about if you're considering starting a Fresh Expression in a rural setting.